Spoilers for all of Star Wars, especially Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hey everybody, welcome to our review of episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hope you're all good out there. Before we get going, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see our previous episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, including, various other Star Wars things as well. We do loads of Star Wars stuff over here, so check it out. Also, feel free to pop over to our website, scriptdepartment.net, to see what our global network of screenwriters are up to. And also, remember, we're now on TikTok. I know, it's terrifying. Come out as we flail around trying to make that work. But for now, far more interestingly, Caleb, welcome to have a chat about Obi-Wan episode 4, otherwise entitled Elements of a New Hope. I think would be quite a good way of that.
Oh yeah.
This was it was a good episode. I think I really enjoyed it. It was nice that they nice to see them pick up nicely after episode 3. Obi-Wan a little weakened by his encounter with Vader, but bouncing back and going on to save the princess. Very, very, very Star Wars. Probably the most Star Wars episode we've had so far up to now, and I think quite interesting to see the merging of prequel era and original trilogy era in a lot of ways here. It's very interesting. What did you think?
So in terms of the episodes, I feel like this was one of the stronger ones for me. I haven't been huge on this show.
Oh, really?
Don't know if I'm the only one. I couldn't place my finger on it of what what didn't connect with me, what I felt was off. And this may be a more talking in terms of the grand show and not this episode, because this is the first one that I've been on. But I think what it is, and I figured it out watching this episode, is it kind of, so I feel like it lacks a sort of tone that the prequels and the originals have, where it has that space opera. It's kind of over the top theatrics and like very theater, where I feel like what I felt in this episode whenever I figured that out, because I was like, there's some dialogue that I'm that's not landing. There's jokes that feel too too timely compared to like our knowledge of everything going into Star Wars. That I think all comes back to tone for me. Of there's kind of this inconsistency, which is fine, but I think I think that's what's not connecting for me in this show. Okay. Is there's there's some stuff with Leia, there's some jokes, like I said, and dialogue that all kind of take me out of it in a way. And not that it's devoid of that, but I think that's what is doing it for me. So
okay, I get that. There is I think the original trilogy and the prequels had very specific tones. You're right, and I feel as though this is quite in some ways it's quite kind of an introspective character study, and I think that it's very much there. I think in a way that we haven't had before. I think this is quite designed. Yeah. It feels as though it's designed to be a bridge between that original those prequels in the original trilogy, and in many ways it is. You know what we've had with other Star Wars shows under Disney and the films as well is we've had going off in the Mandalorian verse, as it were, is kind of very much its own thing with its own style and its own set of rules. And we had the sequel trilogy, which is sort of a continuation of the original trilogy in a certain sense. But this is quite unique in the sense that it's trying to do two different things. And I do agree with you. I don't necessarily think it always hits the mark. with that. And I think this episode in particular, I think it was trying to do two things. I think the main thing it's trying to do here is trying to tell us Obi-Wan Kenobi is, and I thought this was really interesting in terms of a discussion of what the Force is. Obi-Wan seems to not be able to use the Force now in the same way that he used to, and that's impacted by his trauma. And I thought that was really interesting because we see him at the beginning. We see him catch Leia, we see him just fail miserably to battle Vader, and then we see him trying to move something on the ship, and it's clearly a wrench for him, is a real effort for him to get back to that. And I find that so interesting as an idea to use the Force, or the lack of ability to use the Force, as a symptom of a mental health condition. I think that's a really interesting kind of thing to do. But I don't think the episode fully commits to that, because then you suddenly have it in terms of series. It's about this point that we want to see him beginning to get back in his stride and back in the saddle and being able to be a Jedi again. And by the end of it, presumably he's going to be better at being a Jedi again. He's going to kind of be recovered in some way. But he also, but we're being told something and being shown something else. And so I think that is indicative of perhaps the problem you're seeing there. This is a long-winded way of getting back to what you're talking about. Indicative of the problem that you're seeing here is that it's trying to do two things. And it's trying to be an introspective character study, but it's also trying to be a bridge between the prequels and the originals. And I think maybe, and it's also trying to tell two different stories here. I was having a chat with a buddy of mine from university the other day, and he was saying that he really, really just hates the Inquisitor storyline, and he's just not interested in it. And like he feels like that's another show in its own right. So again, perhaps that's what this show's trying to do, is trying to do two different things. In everything it's doing is trying to do in two different ways, and maybe that's something of what you're feeling.
I think so. Yeah, the way that you put that you articulated that is a lot of what I felt, because there's like I think I was expecting more of the introspective character study, like to the terms of, or to the degree of Logan. I had even seen like some headline about how this was going to be Star Wars Logan like movie basically. And then I started that and I got something way different, even tonally. Like there's a very, and this is where like I don't know if Star Wars is like has a lot of the time, or always, I don't know if you could say always, but has been for kids. And so like I don't want to separate myself from that, be like, oh, I'm too old and cranky. I want Logan. I want to be down. I want to be depressed. I want Obi-Wan to die, which I guess he does. But no. But that's like some of the stuff that I had going in preconceived, like going into this show. And yeah, like you get a totally different show from that. And yeah, I think it's doing, especially in this episode, it's like you said, doing two different things that don't really have a through line, that at least comes out really well, and like makes it feel intentional, I guess. It kind of feels a little, and I guess that is, all of this gets back to what I said about how I feel like there's something bland, for me, because again, connecting it to the space opera, to the heightened like Star Wars like world galaxy. So yeah, but
I mean, maybe that's a symptom of it's trying to be Logan for Star Wars, because you can't go R-rated on that. You just can't. You can't make an R-rated Obi-Wan show, because that would just be, as much as I think I'd love to see it as an adult, I'm sure you would. It's just not. It can't happen, because you're going to eliminate so many people. And maybe that's part of that. It's trying to tell the story of a dejected, fallen hero. but it's not able to it's not able to unleash that in the way that perhaps it would do if it had a higher rating. So I think you're probably on the money there. What I did like though this time, I mean, all of these episodes are full of kind of Easter eggs and moments and things to pick up on. And one of the things I really enjoyed, and it was just such a tiny little moment, but someone called him General this time, and someone said, "Oh yeah, no, General, we can't do something like that." And I just thought, what a powerful thing to call this person who is so kind of disconnected from his past, and but also like so he is not General Kenobi anymore. He is old Ben. And I do enjoy the fact that everybody in the galaxy seems to be ignoring the fact that Ewan McGregor just still looks incredible, and they're just pretending he's an old man. Like like Leia said in like episode 2, I think maybe Grandpa. It's like, are you looking at this? He looks old. He looks younger than me, and I'm like 30 years his junior. Like it's ridiculous. The guy looks amazing.
You're like,
what are we doing? What are we pretending this for? But the what was I saying? But yeah, to call it from a psychological point of view, this episode was apart from maybe episode 1, was the best kind of look at him psychologically. And the metaphor of the Force, I know I mentioned it earlier, but the metaphor of the Force being used or lack of Force being used as a symptom there for post-traumatic stress disorder I just thought that was so powerful. What an amazing thing to kind of do. And then to have I'm pretty sure that, and then to put him, you take him and you put him in what I've referred to in my notes as the Hall of Dead Jedi.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Yeah,
it was great. It was so great.
Yeah, because it's this one. I think that this one did have some good beats on the internal journey, even though it was a little light, and maybe it's been light the whole show on that, but like what you're saying with what we're dealing with Obi-Wan's character and dealing with the past, that's the stuff that I really like in this show. Even like the Vader stuff, like I'm really hoping that they really nail that home, because like there's because of the amount of time in between, like chronologically in the story in between episode 3 and episode 4, that obviously hasn't been explored, but this is like the perfect chance for those two characters to have some really good moments. And I think that that's what I'm really hoping out of the rest of this show. Even if like not, and I'm not even talking about like that the whole episodes need to be this, but I think that it will go so wasted if not, because of in episode 3 it was really great getting them back together. I don't know if the execution was like could have been more had more weight to it, but in terms of character, not in terms of like action or internal or external journey. But so throwing him into the Hall of Jedi, was a pretty dark image too for the tone of this show.
Well, there's a youngling there with his little hat on, his poor little Jedi youngling helmet, and it's pretty. It's dark stuff, But then this is the same show, and this is what I mean. I think perhaps it's trying to go dark, but it's not really able to commit fully, because it's the same show that in the last episode had Vader just snap a guy's neck just because he was trying to draw out Obi-Wan. He's just done, sorted. It's like, whoa, that is bleak, and so he's flagrantly just committed murder for the hell of it, and then we're getting this kind of Hall of Dead Jedi and stuff like that, and so I don't know. I think tonally there is a darkness there. I think perhaps it comes from a place of I want it to go further, I want it to be pushed further, and I want it to be darker, I guess, but then you can't. So that's kind of a moot point, isn't it? Like we can't really. I think for what they're trying to do, I think it's really nice. I also really enjoyed Leia in this episode. I mean, the whole kind of construction of this episode felt very much. It was very much a okay. We're gonna get Obi-Wan in an Empire base, and he's gonna be walking around sneaking to save the princess. And it is, and I alluded it to her in our introduction, but it is elements of A New Hope there, story elements from A New Hope, and it jumped out very, very quickly to me that that was the case. And I don't hate that. I quite like it. I enjoyed the fact there. But how did you feel about that? Because it's one of those things that I think could land on either side of that. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly didn't notice like
Okay.
watching it the first time until you said it.
Mm.
But maybe that's because of I woke up and watched it.
Yeah. You and me both,
And so I was
pal.
just
You and
like,
me
all
both.
right, all right. Yeah, exactly. So but once you said it, then I was like, oh yeah, that's yeah, interesting. But I think that the reason that I didn't notice is because of everything else that was going on character wise. So I kind of gave it a pass, and that's why I feel like this one was a bit stronger for me. So in terms of I think compared to episode one, I would compare it to that. Is like there's we start to get Obi-Wan's character where he's at, like it's introducing us over the time jump to where his character is now. Um, Internally. And so like whenever you get that, it kind of quickly goes into the B story of like, okay, we got to go save, or the A story of we got to go save Leia. And so like with this one, you kind of, because they're 30-minute episodes, they kind of like have to rush things along. And that's where I think that if you hop back to the Mandalorian, it has kind of that built-in um, like structure and just the serialized way the show is done is very very fun. But so that's, yeah, like what you said earlier with this, it's kind of, this is new territory almost, of their what they're trying to do. um but yeah, so with this episode, that like once it gets into the character stuff um inside of that plot, that's what I enjoyed, and it kind of took me out of it. So
Yeah. I get that. I think that the different stories running here. I mean, the story we care about is Obi-Wan, right? That's what we care about. We care about how he's
yeah.
going to save Leia, but ultimately there isn't really any drama in that because we know he does at some point, and
Exactly.
so it's kind of one of those. This is definitely more of a journey of how does it happen rather than will it happen, and so the which is a potentially problematic. I think they're getting around it pretty well generally. I think they did well in this episode to get around that. Um, because again, stuff like the Hall of Dead Jedi, which I think is just what maybe we should start calling the script department vaults that now. In the rewatch ones, are we gonna put this film in the Hall of Dead Jedi? Um, but I think.
Absolutely.
I think it did well. Overall, I enjoyed it, and I think the undercurrents here. I think the undertones are better than the overtones, and
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
think that there's been a lot of backlash to Reva as a character, which I don't agree with necessarily, but I do think she's a bit one note, and I think that you got a bit of that here. This was the first time this episode where I kind of went, okay, give us something else. Give it, come on. You're clearly good at this. Give us something else. Like, and I don't think it's not the actor's fault. I think it's firmly in the writing of her, and I think it's because we're not really that interested. We're interested in Obi-Wan. We're interested in Leia, and she has to play the kind of ground level villain character in a way that Vader's your upper tier villain, the big bad, and so she has to be the kind of the boss to beat to get to Vader, I suppose, in the same way that Vader is that to the Emperor in that original, certainly in Return of the Jedi, and so I think I don't know. How do you feel about her? Because I'm
So like I think you're right on the one note. Like she's got a lot to make up for, just in terms of coming into fandom of the Star Wars world, because like this show's called Obi-Wan, you're expecting Vader, so you're automatically, whenever you introduce a new character and give them like a big amount of screen time, that's gonna be, I think it's gonna go rough no matter what. Because I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans hate new things,
yeah, yeah,
or can hate new things. Not that they're like closed off to it,
sure,
but especially in a show called Obi-Wan, people are gonna want what they know, especially from our generation of growing up on the prequels. Um, so but yeah, like I think, and as you were talking, one of the ideas that I would kind of throw out there, and I don't know if this works, so tell me if you don't think it works, but we already know Anakin's backstory. We know Vader's end story, let's call it. Why I really want to see how he deals with this right now, because like I I know he can. I know in the 4, 5, and 6, we know him as a one note villain almost. To it does develop, but he's introduced as that evil kind of how what's her name, um, Reva, yeah. So kind of how she's introduced, even though she's probably more complex in the start of her character than he is. But I think this was one of the things I was expecting out of the show, and maybe we get it. But why is Vader closed off to us at this point, in terms of character? Like, does that not fit this show? And that's why I'm asking if I'm wrong here. But I kind of, because we're dealing with Obi-Wan, why don't we get Anakin's side of how he's dealing with it, even if it's that evil, but there has to be some rage there, um, because of their moments, their ending moments in episode 3. I felt like could have propelled this story in terms of how they're both dealing um, with their each other's loss, basically, of their friendship, is what it kind of boils down to me. Even though you have all the external stuff, but so that's something that I would throw out there that, I kind of would have wanted, but again, maybe it doesn't work. And the last thing I'll say on that, I forgot to throw this out there, but the opening to this show, the recap of the prequels,
hmm
good God, that is the best recap I've ever seen.
oh, it's so great, yeah,
Just editing wise, I was like, I hadn't watched anything about this show, because I tend to just let things happen when shows come out, and so
yeah,
I
sure.
watched the recap and I was like, yeah, let's go,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Obi-Wan,
Let's do this.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
ready, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah,
I
just the
totally
way
agree.
that's put together, good God, that is a fantastic piece. So
It's a great bit of editing. Yeah, it's wonderful. That I totally agree. To your point on Vader as a character being closed off to us, I no, I agree. I think I think the intention is to try and keep him menacing and keep him at a distance, because the when you start to see him up close, so like there was a shot in episode 3 where Vader sat in a throne and it made him look really small, and I thought at the
yeah,
time, like, what are you doing having Vader sat down? Like that is just that was a bizarre choice to me that they made him sit down. I thought it was really weird, but I think that's what they're trying to do by keeping him at arm's length and keeping him as Vader rather than Anakin. Yeah, even though, again, I think they're trying to do two things. I think they're trying to do two things here.
yeah,
And we stumbled on it
yeah,
because I think they are trying to have Vader be the Vader we remember, but also Anakin. And they're doing a really interesting thing with the voice of Vader, where every now and again you get it feels like Hayden Christensen's delivery. It feels like his tones and his kind of pace. It feels like an Anakin delivery from the prequels, but it's in James Earl Jones's voice. And I
Yeah,
love that. I
yeah,
think that's a
yeah.
really cool element of this and a really, really subtle thing they've managed to build in there. Every now and again, I feel like there was when he walked in and at the end of this episode and he's lifted up Reaver and everything. I feel like you got that moment there where a little bit of Anakin came through, and it's lovely. It's very nuanced. It's very gentle. But I think that I felt Vader's absence in this episode, and I think it would have been better if he was there. And I think that is the problem with Reva, because she is not Vader and can't be Vader. But then,
yeah.
I don't know. It's so difficult. I don't know how you do it differently.
Yeah, exactly. And my pushback on the keeping, if they are trying to keep Vader scary, is that we've already kind of had that, and I feel like this could have been and could be their moment to peel back that layer, to give us something that we haven't seen in this time frame of Vader's character, since we've seen him. He can still be evil, but like you said, like, it kind of does take away the keeping him at a distance is what keeps him scary. And I would say that scene of the introduction of him and Obi-Wan meeting, where he's going through the streets, like, that's genuinely like scary. Like, and so I think that's effective. But I that's what I mean by like the Logan stuff, like a little more complexity within the characters, of like taking that time to peel back new stuff.
No, for sure. Look, new and otherwise, Obi-Wan episode 4 is out to watch now. You've obviously seen it if you are here, but go out and check out our previous reactions and conversations about the previous Obi-Wan stuff and other Star Wars things, all on the Script Department podcast. Caleb, nice one, thanks, mate, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.